Hey, good morning, Eastern Oregon, and welcome to this first Friday, March 24th edition of AM Live on EOA.
Are you going to just steal my thunder now?
Yeah, I am.
You're just going to steal my work.
Do you just want to say, well, I thought it would so the only, if you don't want me to, I will.
No, I don't care. I don't want you to wear that shirt on a green screen anymore, though.
Is it like, do I fade into the background?
It's gonna make me pass out over here.
Just a head, just a head and hands floating.
No, it just looks like it's moving. Like it looks like because it's got all the different,
Yeah.
Whenever you have really tight designs like that on green screen, it looks like it makes my seizure warning.
Seizure warning. How are you, man?
Disclosure. I'm good. It's been a busy week for me. My kids are here, so it's been just go and trying to.
Yeah.
It's been cool though. My the EOU football team, Vic Rosas up there, one of the running backs, he's been working out with my son. I texted camp and I was like, my son's gonna be here for a week and he needs somebody to work out with, and he texted me right back and said, Vic's your guy, and Vic was my neighbor, so I already knew him pretty well, so we got Kyron hooked up with him. And they didn't work out yesterday because the gym was closed because they shut down the electricity and the internet for something in that building. But Kyron couldn't even hardly walk yesterday after doing legs with Vic on Tuesday. So it was good. It's been good for him. And then yesterday we went and saw the new Batman.
Oh, how was that?
Okay, let me tell you about this.
Okay.
Some people's kids. Before I even talk about the movie, there's 3 kids there. Their parents obviously, it's a 3-hour movie. So you got about 14 is the oldest, right? Then you got about 10, and then you probably got 8.
Yeah.
Well, 10 and 8, 14's probably like in charge. 10 and 8, no manners at all. The entire movie making fart noises, kicking the chair. One of them went all the way to the front of the theater, and the other one was in the back, and they were playing Marco Polo.
During the theater.
During the
show.
Yeah, during the movie. I thought my son was going to lose it. He kept looking at me like, Dad. Oh, my gosh. And then, it was bad. Yeah, these kids are just total. I wanted to call their parents. Like, I wanted to walk up to them and say to the 14-year-old that was that kept shushing them and they were cussing too. And I wanted to say, hey, give me your parents' phone number so I can, give them an idea of what's going on here.
Right.
Because this is ridiculous. Like, you send your kids to the movie theater to get babysat during spring break, and they act like, the mess too. I told the lady out front after. Yeah. She's like, you should have came and got me. I would have kicked them out. I said, I didn't want to get some kids kicked out of a theater on spring break,
Yeah.
Well, she went in, and I went into the bathroom, and she comes back out, and she goes, you should have came and got me. You should have seen the mess they left. I guess, dude, they were kicking the chairs. It was, yeah.
Oh,
it was
man.
bad. But the movie was good. It was long. It's 3 hours long.
Wow.
Twilight dude, Robert Pattinson is Batman. Lenny Kravitz's daughter is Catwoman. And it's a good movie. It's really long. And you don't want to do it with 3 little hellions. My kids are 13 and 15, right? The ones that were here. And they were annoyed. Like, I thought my son was going to go over there and just line them out. Like, I was like, just chill. Like, we'll just.
He probably should have. Probably would have been good.
Yeah, I might have scared those poor kids.
Yeah,
he looks like a grown man. Thankfully, he's still got a baby face.
But I totally understand that if you're, you pay. I don't know what is a movie ticket now. How much was it?
We went $420.
Like
so I think it was like $8. Yeah, it wasn't bad.
No. So that's not bad. But still, if you've spent $25 to get into a show and
then you got people's kids, man.
Yeah.
Golly. It's, what I attribute it to?
What's that?
Just the elevated levels of not being able to just sit there and be still because of this.
Right. Yeah.
It really like my kids were fine. It was my kids' idea to go to the movie. They enjoy movies. They just sit there. They don't even bring their phones. We just sit. So it's like it's, but some, I don't know. It's just, ugh, it was rough. It was rough. That's when you just want to, man, just go off on their parents. Like, come on, man, you got to raise better kids than this. My gosh.
Yeah.
No, I mean, like cussing and like fart noises, loud, kicking this stuff. They must have moved chairs, the two younger ones, 20 times. One sitting all the way up. But hey, my son, the youngest one was a girl, right? Yeah. She went and got her soda refilled, and she was coming into the theater, and she tripped, and just boom. My son looked over and he goes, "Karma's a bitch." And then they're just talking about my youngest daughter's like, "Oh, instant karma, instant, instant." Because that was the one that was being a royal pain in the butt, the youngest one. And
yeah,
well, it was just good movie.
I don't know. But kids have to be taught. It doesn't even adults, whatever it might be. I mean, people will go to their base level wherever. I mean, if you don't have any sense of like a theater is, to be considerate of others, then you just won't know. So
no. And I was talking to my boy Josh Ridley the other day in Safeway, and he made a statement, and I completely agree with him. Parents are directly responsible for the way their kids act.
Right.
They are.
Right.
You don't see kids with parents that are decent, that are that are teaching the kids good things, out there doing stupid stuff.
Yeah. But I was at my granddaughter's birthday party not too long ago at the bowling alley, and there, I mean, I think we had 4 or 5 lanes. I mean, there was just a ton of people there. But kids, I mean, in a short period of time, they were playing tag. And it's like, no. I mean, and the point is they just won't. Kids will just do what they do naturally, and if there aren't adults to interrupt their natural behavior, they're just gonna go. It's like, oh, this isn't a playground, for crying out loud. We're here to bowl. So anyhow, yeah, we're sounding very old.
EOU baseball this weekend, home games, hopefully. I doubt they're going to get them here. They're probably going to be in Pendleton Saturday and Sunday. And then softball, their home opener. They were supposed to have their home opener 2 weeks ago. The field wasn't ready yet. It was still pretty wet. And so they'll have their home opener this weekend. Friday, game starts at 2, doubleheader. Saturday, 11, doubleheader. That's going to be exciting because they're receiving votes, and last weekend they beat the number 1 out of 3. They beat the number 6 team in the country, so it's pretty exciting. That team's doing really well. Yeah, that me too, bud. Yeah. My grandpa and my mom, like all you got to do is just get beat a couple times, and then you beat into submission.
Well, and yeah, and I always knew that if my parents heard from someone else about my behavior,
oh, you're getting it even worse. Oh yeah.
If I mentioned it, I mean, if it got mentioned to someone else, what it was like, that's bad news.
Yeah. My mom always preached that home is where you can act like an ass. Out in public, you don't. You know what I mean? Like, this is your safe spot to be an idiot, but out there, no.
Right. Yeah, no, that's good stuff. And boy, there's a lot of truth there. I mean,
I told my kids that same thing.
Yeah,
I mean, hey, if you want to act like an idiot, do it right here in the house. Like, out there, just be decent.
Yeah. Yep. Good stuff.
Crazy. It's just there's kids that you know the other thing that I've noticed, especially spring break. Okay, I
Right.
look back. I grew up here. You know what I mean? Like many a spring breaks here. I don't, and the weather's been decent. I don't see hardly any kids outside.
Yeah.
We were at EOU at Ackerman at the basketball hoops every day, or at Willow from sun up to sundown.
Right.
Every day. I don't get it. There's just kids ain't playing outside. They don't.
No, and it's been beautiful last couple. I mean, when I've been in the office and the sun is shining outside, it's like, man, I can't hardly help but not get out there. You know what I mean? It's just like, get out there and soak in a little bit of that stuff.
My want to hear a funny story?
Yeah.
This was hilarious. We were driving down the alley right there by Goss, you know?
Yeah.
Right, yeah. And my back window was open, and my youngest, my daughter Pacey, was in the passenger backside, and on the passenger side of the car there was a garbage can, and there was a homeless guy digging through it.
Yeah.
And he comes off of it, and he starts walking like towards the car, but on her side, and we're going slow. We're in an alley, windows down, and he looks right in the car at my daughter and goes, "Give me your soul."
Give me your soul.
Your soul. Your soul. And you got to know my daughter. Like, she's the kind, she's just like very blunt. And she goes, "Dad, he just told me to give him his soul." And I said, "Hey, you're the sacrificial lamb." Like, we're throwing you out there. She was just, so we've been talking about that for the last like 3 days. Like,
give me your soul.
Yeah.
What a weird thing.
Well,
what a weird thing to say.
And I said, well, what do you want me to say to him? Like what? Like that? Don't say that to my kids. Then he would have lipped off, and then it would have probably escalated. Right? And I just kept driving, and I made fun of my daughter.
Yeah.
He said,
what a weird. I mean, I would be the same. I mean, had he said something rude or vulgar, that would have been
it was like, I think he was messing with, like
right.
Around,
but
like,
I mean, that would have been, you would have known what to say. You would have, I probably would have reacted or whatever. But to say, "Give me your soul," is like, what?
That's exactly what I said. I was like,
"You are more powerful than you look." My goodness.
Yeah. I was like, what if his eyes like turned red? And all of a sudden, it's like there's like some electricity coming out of his hands. That would have been freaky.
Weird.
But other than that, yeah. I mean, if he would have said something weird or like gross or inappropriate, I would have said something. But like, what do you say to somebody that says,
I know.
"Give me
I
your
know."
soul"? Like, dude, none of that.
Oh,
yeah, give me your soul. Where's the weather?
Well, it's pretty out there.
It is pretty.
Let's see.
Finally,
let's see what Gabe has for us.
Heading into the day on Thursday, a decent portion of our area will be topping into the 60s for high temperatures. Slightly cooler into higher elevations like Meacham, maybe stuck into the 50s out that way. Although the lowest elevation spots could even be near 70 degrees, as we'll start to see some fog continuing through mid-morning in isolated areas. Otherwise, times of clouds and sun will continue throughout the remainder of our region. Heading into the day on Thursday for La Grande, it does look like this. We'll start out in the mid-40s at 9 o'clock, warming into the lower 60s in the afternoon. A mix of clouds and sunshine is expected. Northerly winds will be light, not tracking any gust higher than 20 miles per hour. Heading into my short-term forecast for the Grand Ronde Valley, I'm tracking a high of 61 for Thursday. We'll drop into the upper 30s overnight. Warmer on Friday, remaining dry. Sun breaks in a mix of that sunshine.
Boom.
Good stuff. Yeah. And for those of you that don't know, Gabe also, in the evening, he releases a longer version of that same forecast where he goes into more detail about tomorrow's forecast. And so be sure and check that out. It looks more like a traditional evening weather forecast that you would see on a news channel every evening during the evening news. So very good. So be sure and watch that.
We Kyra and I went to get our haircuts yesterday, and they were really busy. There's like 10 or 12 we sat there for like an hour and a half. They're that busy.
Wow.
But in that span of an hour and a half, I was like starting to get worried. So I mean, most of the people that are in there I know, so we're having to talk about, of course, the swimmer comes up and this and that. And then this is all within the span of about an hour and a half. We go, I start to worry that because I see the parking lady, she's out there
I get cars. Okay,
so I go out to move the car to a different spot, and Jimmy Burgess comes running out of True Value, and he wants to talk for a while, and it just I just think I was sitting there thinking and talking to my son about like how we take things for granted, and that conversation came up, and I was like, like in a big city, like this doesn't happen like this. You know what I mean? Like you don't have 4 or 5 people coming to the barbershop that unless it's like the same barbershop, that you always go to, and it's always the same people. But I'm talking about people that I've known for 20 plus years.
Right.
And you don't get, Jimmy Burgess running across the street to say hi from, you know what I mean? And so I had that conversation with my son because I mean, Dallas is a similar size, to here. And I just told him like, don't take things for granted because, this is like how fortunate we are to be in this moment. There's people fighting wars. There's people living under, bridges. There's people, dying from different diseases. And here we are BSing in a barbershop, and with people that we know and in a nice, warm, safe place. So we had that conversation yesterday. It was pretty.
That's good. Do you think that, and I've thought about this and I don't know that I have a conclusion. Do you think that living in a place like Dallas, which is closer to a bigger metropolitan area than here, do you think, are there some advantages of us being in a rural,
I think there's advantages to being over there.
Do you?
Really?
Yeah. So,
for kids especially.
But culturally, are there some benefits? Is the culture different, even though they're similar sizes? Is the culture similar or different?
Almost exactly the same.
It's just the difference is that you have more stuff available closer.
Yeah. So Dallas is almost a spitting image of LeGrand. Huh. It's very community oriented, pretty conservative farming community. With the only difference about Dallas is a lot of people drive for work. People go to Portland or Corvallis or whatever. But the population is just a little bit bigger. But if there was a clone of LeGrand or a clone of Dallas, it would be them of each other. It really is. I mean, it's very community oriented, very sports oriented with the kids, and a lot of interaction. A lot of parental support for kids. Similar drug problems. Really, I mean, if I had to, I think people in Dallas might make a little bit more money, but just because of where it is.
Yeah.
But the advantage to Dallas is you're 15 minutes from Salem. You're 30 minutes from Corvallis. You're an hour from Portland. You're an hour from the coast. I mean, that's pretty solid place. And plus you have, the Santiam Pass right there. You have the fishing and the hunting is just as good. Well, maybe not the hunting, but the fishing is just as good. I mean, it's very similar.
What about the outdoor bicycling or hiking?
Huge over there.
Yeah.
Huge. I mean, you have like the Valley of the Giants. If you go out the backside, so I think it's Highway. No, it's not Highway 20. Oh, it's Kings Valley Highway. Kings Valley Highway will take you from Dallas all the way the back way to Philomath, right? Mm-hmm. And Philomath is where the highway runs from Corvallis to Philomath and then to Newport through Toledo.
Okay.
And that all that area right there is the coastal range, and you got like Valley of the Giants, PD. I mean, it's and there's a lot of outdoorsy, similar, to LeGrand. It's really similar with not as much snow, a lot more rain.
Well, and I wonder those things, especially because I'm involved with the downtown association here, and
similar problems for Dallas too, for downtown.
Yeah. Well, I would think it would even be harder. It would be harder in a community our size, closer to a metropolitan area, because people could drive 15 minutes to get whatever they wanted. And so then how are you going to, it'd be even more of a struggle to attract those stores, locally.
Definitely. Yeah. They don't have like anything I mean, there's some small stores downtown, but
right.
Not as many as here. I mean, basically it's just pizza joints. Dallas has a lot of bars and a lot of churches.
Yeah.
So it's a lot like the Grand. I
mean, a
lot of bars and a lot of churches. and the downtowns that surround that area are some of the best. I mean, McMinnville's downtown is gorgeous. Corvallis' downtown, I mean, it's tough to beat. Even Salem, even though Salem's kind of starting to get kind of wishy-washy and weird, their downtown is still pretty phenomenal. But that's probably 3 of the best downtowns in the whole state, really, when you look at it. So, I mean, there isn't very many businesses that thrive besides for hospitality businesses in Dallas. There's not like a lot of little mom and pop shops. Radio Shack closed, like most places. There is a Walmart. There's a Dollar Tree. They just opened one. Things at Dollar Tree aren't $1 anymore.
I know. Isn't that weird?
What are you going to call it? The $1.25 tree?
I don't know.
That's how much it costs. $1.25.
No, isn't that crazy?
25% increase.
Yeah. No. Well, and I think that I think a small business, that would be hard. I mean, in our area, small business is huge because I mean, there's a lot of people that's how they make a living, and where in a town like, like Dallas, where it's near a metropolitan area, people would find jobs in bigger institutions that are closer in the metropolitan areas, So, I mean, because a lot of people start businesses here out of necessity. It's like, I need to earn a living. This is I can do a little restaurant or a pizza joint or whatever it might be. And, so.
The good thing is the community's so tight in Dallas that all the local people really support when somebody does open something up. I mean, the Tap House got a lot of support really fast, and it was all word of mouth, and it was all just like friends and people, and then it just grows. I mean, it is a little different than here because of, like you said, the proximity to bigger cities, but at the same time, the similarities. I mean, it was like living here. It was like a clone of here, really. That's why I was so comfortable there, and that's why I mean, my kids stayed there because that's where they were raised, and that's where we decided we wanted them to be. I didn't want them to leave their friends, and they can come here when they can, and we're good with it. But at the same time, if I wasn't comfortable with that town, I would have fought for them to come back here.
Yeah,
but it's just so much like here that there was no argument. It's like the people are wonderful there, and they take good care of kids, and it's one of those communities that embraces kids and looks out for them.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Well, hey, I want to talk about my day yesterday. It's kind of unique for me. I had a couple things happen. I have a group of guys that I've been meeting with virtually for over 12 years now. And we spent most of our time meeting virtually. Before meeting virtually was what you called it. I mean, it's been on Skype or Zoom or whatever. And one of the guys lives in South Africa, and it's just a very interesting thing. Well, anyhow, so yesterday we saw each other, had lunch, and spent a couple hours together, and then afterwards I went to and saw one of my college professors, he and his wife they will be 99 this year, and still living independently. They live in the independent section of a retirement home, but just a day really full of cool stuff. It was a long day. I mean, I left here at 8 and got back at 8:30 or something like that, but just a cool day. Good day.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What's happening for us? Let's see. There's not much going on high school wise. Benny's. What do we got going on? Oh, keeping it clear with Cody Bowen. March 31st, 5:30 p.m. I think the guest is. I think we're gonna bring on one of the correctional officers from the jail.
Cool. All right.
And touch on that. I was talking with. I'm not going to say no names, but I was talking with my buddy who's a state cop here in this area, and he says that like the jail problem. Like I asked him, I was like, "Hey, what are some of the struggles that you face?" And he's like, "Well, one of the big things is like we'll pull somebody over out on the freeway, and they'll have I guess they have like." Warrants last forever, I guess, because he'll say they'll have like a warrant that's 2 or 3 years old from Salem, and we'll go to arrest them, and there won't be room in the jail. So this particular one, I guess, was like a felony warrant in Salem that was like 7 years old for like a vehicle robber. What's it called when you steal a car? There's a name for it.
Not a carjacking, but grand theft auto.
A carjacking is when you use a weapon to take the car.
But grand theft auto, or
something similar. It was a felony. Yeah. It was a felony.
Okay. Yeah.
And they tried to put him to extradite him, and there wasn't room in the jail. And the jail told him to just cite and release them. And he's like, "Well, that's frustrating because then I have to sit there and tell this guy, like, hey, go." And I know he's going to go back to Idaho where he came from, and he's never going to come back to Oregon because he knows he has a felony warrant in Salem now. And he said that's like the biggest one of the biggest struggles for them that they're facing right now is just a lack of places to put people and probably, I mean, I would think it would have to do something a little bit with funding too. I mean, it would have to.
Well, and I had a similar conversation the other day with one of the deputies, and they were excited because they could take people to jail. And I think part of that was the complications that COVID was causing also with the jails and stuff. And so then, they would arrest someone and give them a warrant to come to court at a particular time, and they wouldn't show up. And then a few days later, they'd see the same guy and they'd give him another one. And they're just, there hasn't been any teeth to the process. So that's, I mean, I guess I'm glad, but that is the jail, that's going to be coming up more and more. And Cody's going to be really pushing for us being able to do something about the jail because it's been a long term, not only a capacity issue, but the facilities.
Yeah, what you were talking about though, somebody that's a county person,
right?
Yeah, this is not a county person. They face different challenges,
and
because they're not working with the COs and the people that run the jail are county people. So one of his struggles is getting the county people to understand that like we're out here pulling these people over with felony warrants and we're just getting them turned away. And it was basically kind of a complaint, like, hey, we got to figure something out.
Right. But I think, and my point is that, I understand the difference, but I think they're all facing similar issues.
You said that your person said that they can take people to jail now.
Well, but it still is a capacity issue. I mean, but that capacity issue is, I think it's been worsened by COVID.
Oh, it has. Yeah,
But there's been a capacity issue for years and years at our local jail. I can tell you very personal situations where, somebody is released who shouldn't be, and it leads to bad things. So, but yeah. So, okay. So that's coming up. What'd you say? When's that?
March 31st.
March 31st.
5:30.
Okay.
But I think every jail in America has matrix. I mean, they matrix out the lowest, you know what I mean? Because they have to. I mean, there's not enough room to house. We have more people in jail in America than anywhere else in the country or in the world.
Well, and part of it is the Union County Jail. I mean, there are other people that, so I don't, like, for instance, there are other counties in the area who essentially buy occupancy or pay for occupancy of their prisoners or their inmates, or whatever you call them, that at the local jail. So, you might have someone from Wallowa County who needs to hold someone, and they'll end up in the Union County Jail because that's where the capacity is. So
it all turns to what I said. It's a funding issue, 100%.
Yeah, right.
Funding issue. I mean,
right.
There's not enough funds to have enough beds but I'm not anti-matrixing though.
Right.
I mean, if you got there's still people sitting in state prisons on weed charges.
Yeah.
It's like there's people in California whose third strike was having an ounce of weed. And It's like they're sitting there for like 20 years in prison over an ounce of weed. And here in La Grande, we're setting people free as long as they don't have 2 grams of heroin on them.
Yeah.
It's like, come on.
Right. There's got to be some balance.
You can have heroin some places and you can't have weed some places. It's like, what kind of world are we living in? Really?
Yep. Yeah. In that weird.
Could you imagine if we brought somebody here that knew nothing about America from some other country that semi has their stuff together,
right?
And you just brought them to America and you took them to different places and explained to them the rules and the laws? They'd be dumbfounded.
Right. But there are blatant inconsistencies in every, anytime you have a big organization like a city or a state or whatever, or a country, you have these vast.
Not like America. Nobody has them like here.
I don't think America has any kind of an exclusion on the inconsistency between things. No, but I don't know.
I do, especially when it comes to drugs.
Well, maybe
most places outlaw drugs completely, maybe weed.
Yeah,
but here we have different rules in every state. We have people that can, in Oregon specifically, you can have up to 2 grams of heroin.
Right.
There's no other. I mean, unless the heroin.
But there's a reason. There's a reason for that complication, and that is that states have the independent power to make their own laws.
Right.
Versus federal.
Most other places don't. Most other countries don't have that.
Right. Right.
So the other countries aren't dealing with the inconsistencies that we are.
Well, you've listed a couple of specific. I'm sure that there are other but their problems are different. When you have states that don't have states' rights, then you have a federal government who has a huge amount of power over everyone, and that can be a sickening.
That's not the argument, though.
Okay.
The argument is our inconsistencies are very blatant. If we brought somebody from a different country here, it would that didn't know anything about America and started explaining to them, we have people that are sitting in prison for 30 years in California for having weed, and we have people that are getting cited and released in Oregon with 2 grams of heroin. It would dumbfound them.
Right, and I agree, but part of that is the costs of having states that make independent decisions.
Well, we do. We decided that. That's part of our...
Right. And so, it's not going to be a perfect system because part of the liberty is each state having its ability to make laws on its own. So, I mean, it's a balance. I'm not saying that it's neither, that it's, that it's good.
We're
I'm just saying
different.
that's how it
BC.
is.
We're different than other countries.
Yeah.
We're
We're worse.
I wouldn't say we're worse, but we're definite. Our consistency and the way we handle things is really weird.
Yeah,
it is. It's like our laws are weird,
right? Right, but you can take. I mean, you can take and apply that to speed limits or to. I mean, it's just there's 100 different probably laws in different areas that different states pass.
Yeah, but there's speed limits, like speed limits. You're comparing apples and oranges. A speed limit in Montana should be 75 or 80. It's flat, it's open. You can see way in front of you. But a speed limit through the mountains in Oregon should not be set. But when it comes to drugs, there's no, you know what I mean? There's no room for leniency.
Right.
There's not. I mean, heroin should be punished. You know what I mean? It's just there's no room for leniency there.
Right. But
it should be consistent across the board, 100%. Every state should have the exact same rules when it comes to drugs. The federal government should legalize weed. The federal government should tell the other states, like, hey, here's the federal mandate on how we're going to handle all these drugs. So it's consistent, and prosecute people that have illegal, illicit drugs. It's that simple to me. I mean, like,
yeah,
start hammering people. Hey, the 3-strike rule in California, it locked a lot of people up for drugs.
Right. But as you stated, it locked a lot of people up for marijuana drugs.
I said too. Legalize marijuana.
Right.
Federally.
I know, but I'm saying is that you're jumping through a whole bunch of steps, which I might totally agree with, but every one of those takes a literal act of Congress, which we know is incredibly
legalizing marijuana federally would not be that hard. I mean,
if it
the
were
only
not
thing
that
that's
hard,
stopping it is because it's easy to grow, and the federal government thinks that they won't get tax money off of it. So it's not like booze. Booze is kind of hard to make. It's a process. It takes time, right? Mm-hmm. Weed. You could throw in Western Oregon here. You can throw a couple seeds in the ground, and you can have your 4 weed plants that easy. I mean, you don't even really need to water them.
Yeah, but I don't. If legalizing marijuana were simple to do, it would already be done. And so I think that it's
all about money. It's about tax.
I don't think so.
What do you think it's about then?
I think it's the same argument in our own community. It's like there are some people, you don't know the minds of every senator out there. You can't make assumptions. I'm speaking for them. Yeah. So I disagree. I'm just saying you don't know everybody and you don't know everything. I mean, there's no way
disagree with you about it.
Right. And so you're
That's
saying
all I
that
said.
I know, but so you're just saying that the only reason it's not being passed is because of money. And I think it's way more complicated than that. That's all. I mean, if it were,
look at how many states have already legalized it.
Right. But the states legalizing it has nothing to do. It doesn't matter. It's the federal government that hasn't legalized it.
But
if it were easy to do, it would be done.
If every state in the United States legalized weed, you don't think the federal government should?
No, I think they should. I think the inconsistency between the federal government and the state, I think it's crazy. I agree with you. All I'm saying is that if it were simple to fix at the federal government, it would have been done already.
But I think I'm a firm believer that it's a money issue.
I don't know.
I do. I think weed is really hard to tax because it's so easy to grow. It really is, BC. It's not. It ain't hard.
So what about those people that have a moral objection to marijuana? Do you think
The-
Do you think there
I
are
mean,
any of those people that serve as senators and representatives?
there probably is.
Yeah.
There probably is. But just because so representation, you shouldn't be putting your own values in representation. You should be putting your people that you represent. And if the state has it legal, that means the majority of the place that you're representing believes that it should be legal. And if you're putting your own morals on it, it's like, are you really doing your job as a representative?
Yeah, but see that to say a majority can be 51%. That's it, and so
That's a majority.
It is, but that is
That's
not
how democracy
that
works.
is not the same as representative. I mean, and so that's why you have representatives from different persuasions politically. They represent their area, and it might not be 50. I mean, so let's take Cliff Bentz. Cliff Bentz he's in the minority of Oregon. He is a conservative, but he's probably the only conservative. He's probably the only Republican of all of the senators and all of the representatives that represent Oregon. Okay. So do you think that he should, I mean, he represents the conservative part of Oregon. That's his job.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So if
and it doesn't matter if he's in the minority of the state.
But okay. So if you have an area that you represent, of course. But if we're talking about like just a whole state, if a whole state has voted to legalize weed,
Right.
that means the majority of the votes said yes across the entire state.
Right.
The federal government should recognize that. And if every state legalizes it, it shouldn't even be a question. It should just be federally it's legal.
Right. But clearly, okay, so then yes, if every state legalized, or let's say even 50%. Right
we'll
now,
be at 50% pretty soon.
Right. But we're not now. Let's say 60% of the states had legalized marijuana, then of course that would force the federal government to legalize marijuana. But they're not there right now. That's not there.
We're right now we're 7 states away from being halfway there.
Okay, but still
18 states have legal marijuana. And
right, but let's say
I don't really care about marijuana. I'm not an activist or any of that stuff. I'm just saying we have to draw a line somewhere, and the line, I mean, it's basically been kind of penciled in. Let's just draw it and say everything else is illegal and stop playing these games and figure out a way to prosecute people for illegal illicit drugs and keep the other, because in the reality of it is we're selling people. We doctors and pharmacies are selling people drugs that will kill them, that are highly addictive.
Right. I don't disagree with you. I'm a little stuck on the issue that states have the right to make their own laws, and states have the right to represent their own population. I mean, that is why the Civil War happened, is because some states felt strongly about slavery and others didn't. And it wasn't just about slavery. It was that those states that had slaves were economically dependent upon that slave labor. And so and they went to war over that. Well, this isn't any different. This is just the issue is different, but the method is the same.
It's way different.
The method is the same.
Apples and oranges. Okay, the method, but you just said the issue isn't any different.
Right, but the point is that that's the way our government works. That's the way states work. I mean, if you're appalled that the federal government hasn't, if you're appalled that the federal government hasn't passed the law because 30% of the states have legalized marijuana, it just is not relevant. I mean, if 60% of the states had legalized marijuana, it wouldn't be relevant, because some of those states out there, they're never going to pass it. They're never going to legalize it until it is a federal law. And even when they do, they're going to be like,
which is why it needs to be a federal law.
Yeah. Well, I don't disagree with you.
especially since now it's considered medication, and it's been, you know what I mean? Like it's like, come on,
right. But
like,
I'm
we're going to
just
give
saying
people
this.
opiates and as medication, and they're legal to have, and you can have your pills as long as they have your name on the bottle. It's opiates.
Yeah.
But like in a lot of states, you can't have your weed in a bottle with your name on it.
I don't disagree. It's just these kinds of controversies are not new. This is not new. This has been going on for a long time
now, though. Now that weed is legal, and especially in Oregon with this last law, I don't remember what it's called, but the law that lets you have other drugs and not go to jail, or not, just get a little fix-it ticket to go say that you called a rehab or whatever.
No, we don't disagree that it's a total mess.
It is,
and that it needs to be fixed. Yeah, but the thing is,
that
affects us locally too.
We disagree with the function. Like I think that if a state, regardless of what percentage it is, majority is majority. I mean, I hate to say that, and that's how a democracy is set up. That's how it works. If we put something on a ballot, it's not an electoral college in the state. It's not like Eastern Oregon gets 7 points. It's not, it's not like the president. It's more than 50%.
Right. And I agree. And that's why it's legal in Oregon.
Because more than 50%, voted for it. And that's why it's legal in 18 states.
Right. But I'm just saying that when you get to the national level, it's way more complicated than putting it to a national vote.
If we put it to a national vote, it would pass.
And it probably would. Yeah, because even people like me who
would vote yes. I mean,
would vote yes.
Yeah, I know a lot of Republicans that would vote yes.
I would vote yes just to clear up the confusion. Yeah.
Well, I know a lot of conservatives that would vote yes because they smoke it.
Yeah, right. But on the same hand, I still would not. I would have mixed feelings about having a dispensary next door to us. I mean, I would have to process that.
But you're okay with having a liquor store in town.
That's exactly right. All I said was that I would have mixed feelings, and it's not because it makes any sense logically. I'm just saying that it's a change of our culture. It's I mean, if we have weed available at the store, I mean, it's no different than liquor, I mean,
except for you don't get aggressive. There's
right. But as far as a distribution point, we have, I mean, liquor is available very commonly, and that makes it easier for underage people to have access to liquor. I mean, it just makes sense. And so I'm not saying it's not about fairness. It's not about anything. And so, I mean, I get the logical side of it. So, but you can't say that you can't. I mean, you can't make the argument that, well, yeah, but if we have a dispensary locally here, underage use won't go up. That's baloney.
But my argument is this simple. And it's not because I'm a weed proponent or a weed person. I don't even engage with weed. I engage with like trying to be as smart about things, and preservation of life is important to me. If I was if I was a coach at EOU, right, and I have say I was camp. If I was the head football coach, I know what college kids do, right?
Right.
I'm not dumb. I would encourage them to engage in weed instead of alcohol, 100%. With it being legal, it's the same as alcohol when it comes to, just for the simple fact that it's not as many people die, not as many people make bad decisions. They tend to stay home when they smoke weed. You know what the number one problem in Union County is during COVID when it comes to alcohol? It was people that weren't working jobs that would start drinking early in the morning and run out of beer by about 3:00, and they'd go to get beer and drive drunk to go get it. I heard that from a cop. The number one like DUIs in Union County was like middle of the day, and it was because people weren't working and they were drinking all day. People smoking weed, I mean, they just don't. That's not the same. And for me, it's like it's simple. It's like if we're gonna have a liquor store and be okay with that, we should be okay with weed. And I know why we aren't. It's because it was illegal for a long time. But the reality of it is just look at the facts. I'm a fact person.
And I don't disagree with everything that you just said. Okay. I don't, and I've said this before, I don't have a problem with people who use weed on a regular basis and function as human beings. You know, I mean, it's no different than being on your porch and drinking a glass of wine. If you have weed every evening, you get up in the morning and you go to work and you function. And so, I mean, if you're a functioning human being, I don't have any issue with that whatsoever. You know, the problem I have is underage weed use, pot use, that. And the facts are, I just want weed proponent people to tell the truth. And the truth is that if weed is more accessible or here locally, use of underage will go up. That's the truth.
So because alcohol's always been here, it's just
okay it has nothing to do with the argument. Just be truthful. I'm not talking about you. I'm just saying, just say yes. I mean, just somebody say yes. If it is available here locally more easily, underage use will go up. Say yes. Of course. That's all. Yeah. That's all.
There's no question to that.
I know, but the people, the big proponents that I have seen come before the city council and say that, they've really struggled to say, of course. They've said, oh no, we'll encourage people to lock it up. We'll encourage parents to and I mean, I just want them to be truthful. That's all.
It would be probably about the same as alcohol.
It probably would.
Here's another thing. If my kids were going to experiment with something, I would prefer them to experiment with weed over alcohol. 100%. Right.
Well, and I would say yes, but I've seen directly the use of a teenager worshiping weed. I mean, and they don't go to school, they don't do anything else. I mean, I've seen the effects of that, and it's awful. So I mean, it's not any different than alcohol. I mean, there's so much of this we agree with. I just want to be truthful about it.
I think it's crazy that we have to have this conversation. And we have right down the road at the gas station, we have them selling vapes that are targeting kids. They have fruity flavors. They have this, that. It directly targets kids. And that's the number one gateway drug. It's not weed. It's not alcohol. It's tobacco. Yeah. It is. Tobacco is a drug. And kids experiment with that first most of the time.
I know.
And we're targeting kids with that in this community. We let the gas stations sell these fancy little cool things, and you're finding them at middle schools.
Yeah.
Nobody was smoking at the middle school when I was there.
But, you know, part of this comes back to parenting. Part of this comes 100%. Back to, I mean, I was always a big proponent of teaching my kids how to make good decisions, because you can't control all the time what they're going to be exposed to. You can't control what they're going to be exposed to or what they might experiment with. And so you have to teach them to make good decisions. You know,
I would say maybe not so much make good decisions, but just give them the guidelines. Like, hey, here's, you're going to make some bad decisions. Of course, right. We're human. But here's the guidelines you kind of need to follow. Like, are you hurting somebody? Are you hurting yourself? Like here, I guess so. It is like teaching them how to make good decisions. But like, I'm the kind of parent where I'm not going to tell my kids like, hey, no, you do not do that. Like it's bad. But I'm going to say, hey, here's what can happen if you do that. Here's, if you're going to go out and have sex before marriage and like, be smart. Like use it. If you have to do it, use birth control. You know what I mean? Like it's
right.
It's just and parenting is a part of it, but another part of it is kids are going to take risks. Kids are going to try things, and you could have the kid with the best parenting in the whole world, and they're still going to go up, like they're still going to maybe, dip into something.
Right. And certainly, I mean, you see that everywhere. I mean, I've experienced that with my own kids, but on the same hand, parents should just, I mean, I want to know, even if I was raising kids today, I would want to know where they are. I want them to be checking in. I don't, I mean, I would not be a proponent of during spring break, letting my 10-year-old wander around downtown for hours and hours without having some idea where in the heck he's at.
Of course not.
Right.
Yeah. I just think it's weird that we live in a community that, like, Dallas is very similar. They decided not to allow recreational marijuana either in Polk County.
Mm-hmm.
Polk County, like Union County. But we'll sit here and the people that are voting against, or saying that they don't want recreational weed are some of the same people that own the little, gas stations that are selling these.
Yeah.
It's just, it dumbfounds me. I don't get it. I never will. I wish we could just realign everything and just start from scratch. Like, here, this is how it's going to be. And, like, after all this learning, especially when it comes to drugs, because, like, drugs are one of those things where we think that we have all the right answers for it. And obviously we haven't. I mean,
right.
It's pretty clear that we didn't put it's propaganda. Propaganda is what's caused a lot with and social media, especially in the last 10 years. But previously, propaganda was huge when it came to, like, keeping, pot, especially, like, it's the devil's, what do they call it? The devil's something. There's a name for it. It's like the devil's tobacco or the devil's cigarette or something like that. And we as Americans, it was so ingrained in our head that it was horrible that it just kind of, but then at the same time, you got the opiate thing sneaking up on us and boom, you know what I mean? Here we are pushing off a drug that's most likely beneficial for some people. I mean, like, high anxiety people with a lot of pain, I'd much rather see them on pot than popping a bunch of pain pills, right? But we were propaganda was shoved down our throats so much. Like, even people my age, like the DARE program, weed is so terrible. You know what I mean? But at the same time, they didn't really talk to us about alcohol. They didn't talk I never heard a thing in school about opiates.
Yeah.
And my generation's the generation where, as adults, we're hooked on pain pills. You know what I mean? Like, and it's just, it's crazy.
I do know that the more recent DARE programs, they haven't emphasized weed being worse than alcohol. So, I mean, they recognize. So, well, hey, good discussion, man.
Yeah. At least we found something to talk about.
Yeah. Laura Morgan had this. So,
A, I don't know anything about politics, and B, I don't care about politics. I just want people to be. Oh, no. I know. Yeah, I saw what she said. Absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
It's just like I care about people and about people living and being free to do what they want to do and not hurting other people.
Yeah. And
it's just,
I guess what I think is that people are not very informed. I mean, they'll get on a bandwagon, so people will say, yeah, we have more people in prison than any other nation, and so then there'll be these broad reformation laws where they're like, well, hey, let's let a bunch of these people go because they're in for foolish stuff. And you might say,
it sucks.
Right. But on the same hand, you have people pass laws, or they have a measure that's on the ballot, and it's too broad. It lets lots of people go. It lets the wrong people go. And so then you have a different problem. And part of that is the voters, they just get on they follow the media, they follow the propaganda. It's like, yeah, let's reform our prison system.
No, the voters in America follow their party. They don't follow the propaganda that's supplied by their own party. If you took like the Democrats, right? And they told they said, oh, 3 times 3 is 8.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, all of them are, and same thing with Republicans. If you told them 2 times 2 is 5, eventually there'll be a small percentage that says no. I mean, the math says 2 times 2 is 4,
right?
But eventually they're going to be like, yeah, 2 times 2 is 5. That's just how our country is right now. It's crazy,
right? And so that's why people just need to be more cautious about what they need to be more informed. They need to research and So
yeah, don't follow the stuff that is being fed to you.
Just don't drink the Kool-Aid that's being handed to you. Yeah.
What happened? Didn't some guy kill like 190 some odd people with the Kool-Aid? That's where that phrase comes.
That's where that phrase comes. Yeah.
Yeah. Where was that?
That was
a cult. It was in America, right?
Yeah. No, it was in Guyana, I think.
Oh yeah.
It was back in the 80s, and Jim Jones. They were mostly Americans, but they were they were down in South America somewhere, I think.
What are those things called?
A cult, yeah.
But what are those other things called? Like where Timothy McVeigh lived?
A compound?
Not a compound. A commune. A commune. They were living in a commune, like a communal living area, right?
Yeah, right. And it was cyanide laced, or Kool-Aid laced with cyanide. That's what.
Did he drink it too?
Yeah.
He died too, the guy?
Yeah, there were like 500 people. I need to watch the
documentary again. I haven't watched it in a while.
It's pretty interesting.
Hey, another really good documentary before we go is the documentary about those guys that lived in the gorge, the Raj Niche.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, that is a great, and that's really well done.
Yeah, it's a good documentary. All right, let's get on this day done. It's short today. On this day in 1868, March 24th, Metropolitan Life Insurance Company was formed, and it was the first one in America. On this day in 1882, German scientist Robert Koch announced the discovery of tuberculosis, the germ that causes tuberculosis. And then the last one, there wasn't a lot for today. 1989 on this day. Probably some of the biggest news of 1989. The Exxon Valdez spilled 240,000 barrels or 11 million gallons of oil in the Prince William Sound after it ran aground. That's a lot of oil. 11 million gallons. That's a big ship.
How many barrels
240,000 barrels.
Yeah, enormous.
That's a big ship. That is a huge ship. Let's see. The number one song in the country on this day in 1962. I took it all the way back to 62. Don't Break the Heart That Loves You by Connie Francis. I don't even know that song.
I don't either.
Never heard of it before. And then the quote for the day comes from, I think this quote is from, what is it for? From War and Peace, right? The 2 most powerful warriors are patience and time. And that's something that I work with with myself all the time, because I don't have a lot of patience, and I'm trying to. Oh, he didn't drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, I was trying to. Yep. I can. Yep.
Bud, appreciate you, Laura. You too. Everybody watching.
Yeah, thanks you guys.
Thanks
for tuning
the comments.
In.
Yep. Who's on Tuesday?
So on Tuesday, it's going to be kind of cool. We're going to have Jonathan.
That's right, Marvel.
Yeah, the guy who works for us, Jonathan Marvel, is going to be on, and with some of the support that he receives from CHD.
I'm gonna get a Carolina Reaper and tell him he has to eat it for the show. It's gonna give him. Remember when he was on the ball game show and we had him eat the?
Yeah.
I'm gonna prank him. I'm gonna be like, hey. Part of being on the live show, dude, you have to eat the Reaper and see what he says. Because he did it. He was hurting. but he did it.
Jonathan did.
Yeah, he did it on the Johnny
On the-
Ballgame show.
on the Johnny Ballgame show, yeah.
He ate it. So I'm going to tell him this time, hey, part of being on the AM show now is you got to eat a Reaper, dude.
Yeah.
We'll see what he says.
All right.
You too, bud. We'll see you on Tuesday.
Talk soon.